What's going on, everybody? We're back with Modes with Friends. I'm Sean Daniel.
I'm Ian Stich.
As you know, there are 7 modes.
There are indeed.
You know what else there are 7 of?
I think I know what's coming.
Shout out to my man Lewis on Instagram. There are 7 seasons of the Gilmore Girls.
Yes, there are.
Now, this is Thanksgiving weekend. We're shooting this.
That's right.
My family is in town. There are more girls than guys, so I was forced to watch the Gilmore Girls reboot.
Sure.
And funny enough, wouldn't you know, now I'm somewhat familiar with most of the Gilmore Girls characters.
Yeah.
And we're going to assign each of them their own mode. So, Ionian, obviously, Lorelai.
Lorelai.
Because it all comes back to Lorelai. Everything's about Lorelai.
Everything. Yep.
I haven't seen any of the original episodes, just the reboot, and I know enough.
I've seen them all, and you're right.
All about Lorelai.
Yes.
2, Dorian.
Dorian.
The grandma. Right? A little spicy.
A little saucy.
Right? And not kind of minor-ish.
Snarky.
Yeah, very snarky. Dorian, right?
Dorian, yes.
Phrygian.
Luke.
My least favorite character. I don't understand.
What a fake guy.
No kidding, right? Like, this guy's a cartoon character. He wears, like, a costume with this backwards hat and his plaid shirt.
And his plaid shirt, and he walks around.
As a man, I am insulted that Luke is, like, the relatable, like kind of dream guy. Luke? Come on, man. Luke's a loser.
He can't run a restaurant.
Screw that guy.
Yeah, forget it. Okay.
Lydian. Rory.
Totally.
Right?
Happy.
Very much like her mother.
Yes.
But with more of a playful tinge,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
The 4. Right?
Yeah, the 4 right there.
5, Mixolydian.
Oh, Sookie, the chef.
I don't know much about Sookie except it's Melissa McCarthy, right?
Well, Melissa McCarthy, but like her character is like kind of happy. There's something like a little weird about her.
Mixolydian. Flat 7, right?
Totally.
6, Minor.
Minor.
Is Paris?
Oh, Paris, yeah, Paris. You know, Paris, the snarky. No, I used their snarky.
Can't believe we're doing that.
Well, she's the mean-spirited, like sharp-witted, but with a bad attitude. Paris, alien.
And then 7, Locrian. The dead grandfather that casts its shadow over the entire reboot. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Its influence is everywhere, but invisible at the same time.
Locrian.
Which is what we're talking about today is Locrian.
Locrian?
Sometimes pronounced Locrian.
Is it really?
Some people say that.
I think it's right.
I've been saying Locrian. It sounds classy.
Locrian, right? Locrian.
Anyways, let's get into it. Let's get right into Locrian, right? Ian, show us how it looks as a shape first.
As a shape, scale-wise.
Just as a shape, right?
All right, so the Locrian mode is the 7th mode. Now, before we get to this, just to let you know, it is known throughout the jazz world as a theoretical mode. It's very hard to actually work into, so just in case you heard that. But it is the 7th mode. So if you have a major scale, you have, what I'm going to do is an A. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 1. Now there's my Locrian note right there. That's 7th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you see here, it's actually really easy to grasp a Locrian mode because you can take this note and start it on its lower octave here. So now you take the same exact shape, but you start here and you have... So fret-wise, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 6. And there is your Locrian mode.
The major scale, back one note.
One note.
Think of it, right?
That's it.
Has a dark sound all to itself because it has, I think, the 2 darkest intervals that there are.
Yeah,
The minor second, the flat second, and the flat 5. Which is kind of what we were talking about. It's kind of hard to write in Locrian because it's so unstable that there's no 5 grounding it to support it, that it's kind of hard to start something on a Locrian.
Yeah, there's no resolve. It's a very, it floats around. So really, we were talking about this. Songs really aren't usually written in Locrian modes. Songs will take on a flavor of a Locrian moment.
Or a transitional element. Almost.
Yes, using it.
Because it is so dark.
So dark and unstable.
But you know what? It's always darkest before dawn, Ian. Right? So I like to think of Locrian as a transition into light.
Into light.
Right?
Okay.
Which is the major scale. So if you want to create instant resolution, you hit that 7, you hit that minor 7 flat 5 chord, which is born of the Locrian mode.
Right.
And then you go right to the 1.
Right to 1. Actually, I think we were discussing all this before we shot, and I kind of show them my 7 to the 1. All right, so we were talking about all different ways to play minor 7 flat 5. So let me show you really quickly. If we were in the key of let's say A. All right, so we have A major. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the 6th fret of the D. And if you put your first finger there, okay, right there, boom, and then you slap your ring finger down the 7th fret on the G, B, and E.
6, 7, 7.
There it is. This is an A. This is an A flat minor 7.
Where you're rooted on the D string.
Yes, rooted on D string.
So anytime you know a note on the D string, you put the shape on it, and there you go.
Yeah, it's like if that's your 7, boom, on the D string, boom, slap that shape down. It's a minor 7 flat 5. So, just a little preface. I come from the jam band world of things, where really it's always about coming home to the 1. We talked about this. So, if you want to write something that has a Locrian feel, you can start on this chord here. And your root note, the home, is here. And if you want, you put your ring finger there, and you can create this little A chord. 7, 6, 5, 5. So you can do this little funk groove, like... There you go. Oh, look at that. He's just jumping. So Sean, why don't you tell the folks at home what you're soloing?
I'm taking, not the A major scale, it may look like that, but it is in fact the G sharp Locrian mode.
Right, because that's... We started with that, so you're going to take on the flavor of that. So that is my little take on a Locrian type sound that minor 7 flat 5 resolving to the 1. Sean is going to show you something awesome up his sleeve for Locrian.
Exactly. We're going to use a couple different chord voicings to kind of show how you can use this out of key. Oh, yeah. And that's kind of one of my favorite ways to use a minor 7 flat 5 chord as a note out of key. Okay?
Interesting.
So we're going A string, root, and let's do it in the key of C.
Fantastic.
So I think this is probably the most common one that you'll see is, so I'm rooting on 2A, my pointer finger, 3D, 2G, 3B. B minor 7,
B minor
flat
7,
5, the 7 chord in the key of C.
Yeah.
So again, I would say probably what you hear this most in kind of like pop music, contemporary rock or whatever, is as a transition to get back to the 1.
Right.
So like if we're on A minor, the 6th chord of C, right, just like that. So it's like boom, hit it real quick, and then you're home.
Yeah, I just want to actually talk about. A lot of people do what's called the the C/B, where they do this, like they go A minor and they'll walk up the root. But you hear that so much, like so much identifiable. Like when I'm listening to a song, I clearly hear it. But if you want to make it saucier, you would put in that B minor 7 flat 5.
The whole thing in there, right?
Put the whole thing in, and it just adds another dimension.
Yeah, so that's just one way to use it as the 7 chord. And if you want to, you can do, I mean, because if you think of, like this B, if you think of the actual mode shape where it's like 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, right? You can think of like going from an A to a...
Oh yeah.
Right? You can kind of like maybe run through the scale before you hit.
Absolutely. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
A million different ways to do it. But I want to talk about how you can use it outside of where it technically belongs.
Which is, it technically belongs in the 7, but now, like normal, Sean is going to break the rules.
That's right, because I'm just not a normal human.
No, you're the Elliott Smith of guitar
I'm a very special person.
Yes.
As I've been told for so long by my mother and my subs. Right? What I like to use it as an alteration of the 4 chord with a raised root. Now let me explain what that means. So let's say we're doing something
like dropping
in the key of G, right? Where, so there's a G chord, right? Maybe G major 7, whatever.
Sure.
The 4 chord is a C major 7, right? So that voicing we just learned, so C major 7 voicing rooted on the A string like this is 3, 5, 4, 5. If you'll notice, all I gotta do is pop this root note up a half step, and there's our
minor 7
minor
flat
7. So this is a C sharp minor 7 flat 5.
Yes, it is.
So now I can hear this going to the 4 to the 1, right? So this note isn't technically in the key I'm playing in, but I'm using it as a root note for this.
Yes, and one thing I want to bring up, which I don't know if we did, is in all of our modes with friends, we talk about the special notes that make the modes, and this one we have that flat 2 and that flat 5. And when you play the minor 7 flat 5 chord, that is the sound of the Locrian mode bunched into one moment in time. So that's what we're doing, is we're taking the sound of a Locrian mode or moment and putting it in places that you do find it, because again, writing Locrian is very hard.
Yeah, we might not be using it in a solo right now. We might do that more later. But this is more just kind of like arrangement-wise what you can do with it, right?
Exactly.
So another thing that I think is very important, depending on which voicing you choose, it's not enough just to know chord voicings, is to use them in a way that is musical.
Yes.
Right? It's one thing just to be like, okay, I know a root note, I'm going to slap a shape on it. Which shape do you choose? And to me, specifically with minor 7 flat 5 chords, what comes on top is of paramount importance.
And what it means on top is like usually the highest note.
The highest note, right?
It's usually like what people think of as the melody.
Right, exactly, right? Like if you're writing like a vocal line, like usually, you know, if you go to like music school or whatever, they teach you to sing on top of the chord. That means your vocal melody should be the highest thing because it stands out. It's a good way to mix things, whatever.
Yes.
But, so like for instance, with this B minor 7 flat 5, on top, I've got the D, right? So right there. And it's got a very D-ish sound.
It does.
right, that you can hear. So depending on what you're trying to do, what type of resolution you're looking to achieve, it's very important which voicing you choose, which is why we're going to do one other voicing.
Sure.
And we'll keep it on the B, right?
This is good. This is a good one.
Your middle finger is going to play the B on the E string. This is going to be an E rooted minor 7.
Oh, are we actually in the key of C? We're doing a B minor 7 flat 5? Okay.
Yep.
So we're in the key of C. We're doing a B minor 7 flat 5. So there we go.
So here's my middle finger, right? On 7 E. Now, I'm going to skip the A string. I'm not going to hit it. I'm going to mute it. I'm going to have my ring finger on 7 D. My pinky right behind it on 7 G. And my pointer finger on 6 B. Interesting
enough, I'll play this guy down here if I can actually get it, right? Oh, geez, if I can actually get it, right?
Yeah.
And you can hear like two totally different sounding chords, even though they're the same. Voicings are important.
And where it's leading you is different. And that's why what we talk about sometimes, there's different types of resolution. It's not always about going to the one.
No.
Right? And if you can kind of lead a resolution to somewhere that's not the one, I think those are very interesting musical arrangements. Personally.
Yes, they are.
Right? So that's kind of like what I do in my own writing and stuff like that too. But so this one right here is just another option that you can have, right?
Yes.
There are always inversions in different ways you can use chord voicings, even for like the B. Like let's take the thing that I was going to do. In one of my songs, I have this thing where I use this A string rooted voicing, but I go to, you know, I'm stepping up to the big leagues.
Oh, that guy.
This one right here, right?
That guy's
So
huge.
for instance, here's the difference between maybe, just like in one of my songs, I have this thing that goes from here. And that's one way to resolve, kind of like how I said where I raised the root there.
Yeah.
But another way to do it is from here.
Ooh.
And that's a totally different sound, same chord.
Same chord.
Only because I added an extra layer of melody on top of this. So what I did here, instead of my pinky going, instead of going 6, 7, 6, 7 to make an E flat minor 7 flat 5, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm using different fingers to add this on top. And by adding this on top, same chord, it makes me want to end there.
Right.
Whereas if I add this, I want to end there. So
and no, sorry to interrupt, but like one thing I want to talk about, and I think we mentioned this off camera a lot, is that music theory is really an assist. You know, like that right there, like that chord voicing. You know, if you play it and your ear wants to take you somewhere, let it take you there. Don't even care if it's like, well, this isn't modal. It's okay, because if you can't find the resolve, then you use music theory to see if you can find the resolve. But like there's a minor 7 flat 5 chord that can easily lead you, and that's what songwriting is about. It's not all about theory. So
like some people like, I don't want to learn theory because it's going to mess me up. I've heard people say that before.
No, you gotta learn.
And I actually kind of thought that when I was just lazy and I was just dumb and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
But then I learned it's like this is only a compliment to how I'm doing things. It only helps you, like you said, it assists you.
Yeah, and I have one more thing to show. And really quick, I know we're going long.
Well, actually, so let me do my Elliott Smith thing real quick.
Oh yeah,
right?
Elliott Smith thing.
One of my biggest influences is Elliott Smith, my favorite guitar player ever.
He's wonderful.
And he has so subconsciously affected my own writing that I can't even tell. But like one thing that he'll use minor 7 flat 5 chords is he'll use them on the minor third of the major scale you're in.
Yes.
So if you're in the key of C, right? A minor third from C is that E flat, right? Which isn't even in the key of C.
No.
But what he'll do, he didn't like the 5
He hates the 5.
So you won't see a lot of Elliott Smith songs that are just C to G to C.
No.
He'll do something crazy. He'll go from a C to a E flat minor 7 flat 5 to the 4 chord.
Yeah.
So like instead of like a C, G, F, he'll play like a... There's his resolution,
right? That's totally Elliott Smith's sound.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Elliott Smith, look up what figure 8, right?
I think this song Happiness, he does that for sure. There's a couple songs, that's on figure 8.
Figure 8, yeah.
Yeah, he does that a lot, and I think it's just another example of you learn a voicing. Finding your voice as a guitar player is just experimenting.
Yes.
Once you know some of the rules and kind of going.
And then breaking them. And Elliott Smith's absolutely, outstanding at that.
Yeah.
Very true. So one thing I want to touch upon, I know it's a long video about the Locrian mode, but again, it's about a sound more than it is the mode, is that minor 7 flat 5 chord. You find this a lot in, I'll say, jazz, not jazz pieces, but jazzier pieces where what's called a perfect cadence is when you go from a 5 to a 1. So if I was an A, and then I went to the 4 chord, I would hit the E7, which is the 5, and then I'd stay here, and then I would come back to the 1, and the crowd will go crazy. And that's called a perfect cadence. What you can do, to make a long story short, in any key, is you can sub the 7 chord, the minor 7 flat 5, for your 5 chord. I mean, instead of going A, D, E7, you can go A, D, and then G sharp minor 7 flat 5, and bring it home to the 1. So you get these sounds. Very common move you hear.
Sure.
Beatles have used it, but there it is. There's that is pure Locrian mode or Locrian chord, creating that tension and bringing it home 1. It's just in a different way than using the 5.
And the reason that it works that way is because the 5 is where the dominant 7 chord exists.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So like if you take a dominant 7 chord, so like let's take in the key of C.
Yep.
G, dominant 7, G7.
G7
would be a G, a B, a D,
and an F.
and an F. Right. So now if you take that root away.
Yeah.
You're left with a B, a D, and an F.
Which is
a diminished triad.
Yeah, which is a B minor 7 flat 5.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it fits, because a G7 is 75% of a diminished half-diminished.
Right, and this is called chord substitutions, which is something that Sean and I will definitely hit hard. Just trying to use different chords that have similar notes to kind of move your progressions forward. And I think that we did a good job on our first intro to Locrian.
I mean, definitely as good a job as the Gilmore Girls. Netflix.
Yeah, you got to watch it. And yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Till next time. Bye.